Welcome to Seattle Public Utilities Ask Evelyn Live, where we answer your questions about recycling, compost, garbage, and other trashy topics. I'm your host, Becca Fong, and this week, Composting 101. So this month, we are digging deep into compost. So we're going to break things down so you have the opportunity to absorb all this really, really great composting knowledge. Because as you guys know, in Seattle, we have this amazing system that takes in all of the nutrients from your food and yard waste and breaks them down and turns them into a very rich finished compost. So, you know what's really great about that is that compost, what happens is you're able to cycle those nutrients back in and prevent that material from going to the landfill, where they turn into methane, which is a very powerful greenhouse gas. So this week, we are being joined by the wonderful and fantastic Kate Kurtz. Here she is. Hi, Kate.
Hello.
So Kate, we are so glad to have you on the show again. Thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right.
I'm excited to be here.
So it is May. We're digging deep into compost this month, and we had to have you on to talk about all the ways that you can use compost in your landscape. Because what you're always telling me is that it's great to compost your food waste and your yard waste, but you really want to close that loop, right? And using compost in your landscape is really how you close that loop. So, all right.
Yeah. I think that's really important. I just wanted to add, Becca, that's really important for two reasons. So one is that it helps that organics recycling system work, right? There has to be an end market for that to work. But the other thing is that it helps us to create beautiful landscapes.
Yes.
Right? It's like the best thing that we can do to build our soil health, to benefit, our plants.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm so glad you're coming to us from a beautiful outdoor location. So you and I were talking, and you had some really good tips for folks about ways that they could use it in their landscapes at home.
Yeah. Well, compost is the best thing that you can do to benefit, soil health. So it's the best thing that you can add to your soil, to support plant growth. So actually, this is my backyard for my home.
It's lovely.
And when we moved in, everything here was paved over. It was literally cement. We dug that out. We added some compost, and now we have this lush landscape. It's not like a show garden or anything. It's just
it's a real garden.
We're just a family that lives here, right?
Absolutely.
And and it functions really well for us. So the first thing that you do, and I'm just mentioning this, that when you are preparing new garden beds, the best thing to do is add 2 to 3 inches of compost to the top of the soil, mix that in. So mix it in everywhere. Don't just dig a hole where you want to plant your tree or your shrub and add compost in there. That can actually cause some problems because those plant roots might not want to leave that delicious soil where all the compost is. And you want to develop, big, strong root systems. So mix it into the whole planting bed before you plant. Yeah. So that's the best way to establish new beds. And then that goes for lawns too. When you're doing new lawn areas. Yeah. Prep that soil first with compost.
Absolutely. So you have a really great trick that I would love for you to share about using compost on lawns. So I love this trick.
Okay. So this trick is actually something that I developed myself.
Awesome.
That I was seeing what professionals do at very large scale things, and they'll actually mix the compost with the seed. And I was like, well, I can do this on my backyard scale. Yeah, so I'll just show you. So lawns really can benefit from having additional compost added to the top of the surface of the lawn. You don't want to add too much, less than an inch. You just add that to the top of the grass and you rake it smooth. But this is what I do, because the other thing that you need to do sometimes is top seed. Is that what they call overseed your lawn with more? Yep. Yeah, you overseed your lawn with more grass seed, and you want to make sure that you're using grass seed that's adapted for your area. So in our area, I always look for a Pacific Northwest mix. Okay, and then this is what I do. I have a little demonstration for you.
Okay,
so
I love a demonstration.
Here's my workout. Hopefully I can show this. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I'm actually here. I'll put this on this chair right here. Okay, so here I have a bucket of compost. And then this is just an empty bucket. Okay. And what I'll do is I'll put some compost in the empty bucket. And then I'll take my grass seed, put that in there. And then can you see that? Is the lighting working?
Yeah,
okay.
Totally.
And then I mix this up. And now this is what I add to the top of the lawn surface. And then I rake this over, and I might just add like extra in any bald patches, you know, if a dog got there or something. Right?
Or a small child, maybe.
Or a small child.
I don't know.
Any areas that need a little extra TLC, you can just like take the clump and put it right there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and for some reason, it seems to also hide the seed a little bit better from the birds, because you know the birds will always come through and kind of get it. This is totally anecdotal. I don't have scientific evidence to back that up, but this is what I observed in my yard.
Okay. No, I think that seems like a really great thing, because you're creating some of that structure. You're getting that, like, you know, moisture contact with the seed, which helps with the germination, and then you're helping it from getting eaten by the birds. So
exactly,
awesome trick. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. And the nutrients that come with the compost as well. Yeah, it just helps.
Awesome. So you were talking about garden. I was thinking also about some spring stuff. So garden beds, right? Like we're all thinking about like how we're prepping our beds for food gardens, right? It's finally starting to get kind of nice outside. So what are your, I know, right? We're hoping, you know, it's like Maytober still, but that's okay.
Maytober. I know.
But when you're getting things ready for the garden, so how much compost should people be using when they're getting their kind of veggie garden beds going?
Yeah. So it's a good question, and of course it depends, but there's like general rule of thumb is that you might want to add between 1 and 3 inches of compost to the top of your veggie garden beds each year. Mix that in. It really helps to mix it in. And then compost has a lot of nutrients in it, but doesn't have quite enough nitrogen to meet the nutrient demands of things like tomatoes and lettuces and kale. Our vegetables need a lot of nutrients. And so what I actually like to do is then go ahead and supplement that with an organic fertilizer that's high in nitrogen, like blood meal. Okay. And so there are different options that you can use. But the thing that I like about blood meal is that it has, you can see here, this is the percentages of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. You can see this on any fertilizer box. So this is what this means is that this is 12% nitrogen by weight, which is pretty high. Yeah, it's pretty high for an organic fertilizer. If you can't find that, and it doesn't matter, the brand doesn't matter at all. This is just stuff I pulled out of my shed, right? But you can use something like this. What do they call this? Is just like an all-purpose fertilizer. You could use something like this too. Yeah, and I usually add compost most years to my veggie beds, but not necessarily every single year.
Okay. So you kind of talked about this a little bit, but a question we get a lot is like, you know, a lot of folks think that compost and fertilizer are synonymous terms. Like other than the nitrogen, like what's the main difference between the two?
Okay. Well, they're not. They both help our soil to be healthier, to provide more nutrition for our plants. But compost is actually, I think of it more of a soil conditioner. So it's full of organic matter. That's kind of the biggest benefit that it has. It's full of organic matter, which provides food and habitat for microorganisms. Makes sense. That really help the soil to support our plant growth and absorb and hold on to more moisture. And so here, I'm also just going to show you again here. So this is just like, you can see it. It's just decomposed, you know, plant material. And stuff, right? And while it does have nutrients, this has all of the nutrients that were once in it for that rotting food or those leaves or the grass or the twigs and stuff. It has all of the nutrients that were in that, but it's actually pretty dilute. So yeah, and so I think of a fertilizer, you know, here I'm showing you this all-purpose organic fertilizer. This has some organic matter in it too, but not nearly as much. But the nutrients are much more concentrated. So this is like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, you know, those nutrients supercharged, a little bit of organic matter, whereas the compost is lots of organic matter and more dilute nutrients. Okay, cool. Yeah. We just got a comment too that says, great advice. What's the recommendation for using leftover compost for indoor plants? Oh, sure. Okay. So I'll do this, especially this time of year in spring when our indoor plants are also putting on more leafy growth, is that I will add a little bit of compost, not much, you know, maybe half an inch at most, to the potting soil surface. of the indoor plants. And I'll do that too. I do container gardening, like on my patio and stuff like that. So I'll add some compost to those pots as well.
So a little bit.
A little bit, not too much. And that's for a number of reasons. Potting mix is not soil, right? It's usually made out of other organic materials. Our professional term for it is soil-less growing media. Meaning it's growing media that has no soil in it.
Right.
And it's mostly formulated for very precise like drainage and moisture holding properties. Right. And so you don't want to add too much compost to that because it might mess with those moisture properties.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But potting soil less mix is probably not super catchy, right? Not a real catchy term. So it makes sense.
It does it for me. It does it for me, but the marketing department doesn't like it.
Like, what are we talking about? So, and another really great thing, because you were talking about preparing garden beds, not just veggie beds, but general landscape beds. We have definitely encountered lots of clay soils. So what's the best way to deal with compost and clay soils? Are they good? Are they bad? What are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, it's good. So that's actually kind of what I was talking about. Compost is a soil conditioner. So it'll like bust up that clay.
Nice.
What happens is you add the organic matter to the clay soils, and then the microorganisms that are feeding on the organic matter in the compost will actually help to form these like aggregates of the soil particles. So the problem with clay is that it forms these like blocky masses, right? So you can't dig in it. The water doesn't go in it deep. But if it's aggregated well, then it can start to behave more like a silty, loamy soil. And so that's the trick. And then on the other end of that extreme are super, super sandy soils that won't hold nutrients. They won't hold moisture.
It just like drains right through it.
It just drains right through it. And the compost can help that too, those soils as well, because the compost itself will be able to hold nutrients and moisture.
All right. Awesome. Well, folks, so many great tips. Thank you so much, Kate. I mean, I think the long and the short of it is like compost good, right?
Compost good.
Compost
like,
good.
It's like there are most things where I'm like, there's no silver bullets in this world, but I'm like, compost is kind of close when it comes to gardening stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing. And actually this leads us kind of into our reminders for the week. So last Saturday, thank you to all of you who came out to our compost giveaway event at South Seattle College. We have one more going in the spring. That's going to be in the Maple Leaf neighborhood. So those of you who are in North Seattle, come on out Saturday. It's going to be in partnership with Fairview Church. And we'll have all of the details for that as a link in the comments to the show. But if you can remember it, it's seattle.gov/utility/beyondthecart. One other really great Beyond the Cart activity that's happening is our reuse and recycling collection event for those hard to recycle items like electronics, styrofoam, bulbs, batteries. We're going to be at Finney Ridge Neighborhood Association for that as well. So you can find that as well at the Beyond the Cart link. And then for those of you who are out and about, there's also the One Seattle Day of Service. So there's all these different activities for people to get involved. I'm sure there will be some compost involved in at least some of these, and certainly recycling and picking up. So you can check out more information about that. So thank you guys so much. Quick reminder as well that this show is run on your questions. All the great questions that you sent us about compost is how we were able to like reel in Kate again for another fantastic episode. And we get to have just like her presence and amazing knowledge and information about compost. So keep those coming. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or you can send us an email at askevelyn@seattle.gov. So with that, Kate, thank you so much for joining us. It is a pleasure always. You have so much knowledge. Oh my goodness. We just love having you on the show. Thank you so much.
It was so fun. Thank you for inviting me to talk dirt with you. I'm always happy to do it.
Absolutely. So fun. All right, folks, with that, I'm Becca Fong, and life's simpler with less stuff. And Kate, thank you so much. All right.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
You are welcome. Bye-bye.